Good morning. Sorry I'm late. Technical issue that I have no idea what happened. So, good morning from beautiful Brisbane, Australia. How are you today? And thank you for being with me. If you're here for the replay, do a hashtag replay. And if you're here this morning, say g'day. My name's Linda. I'm a trauma recovery coach, and I love coming and being able to share information with you that you can apply in your day-to-day life to help you progress your recovery, and which is super important because this information needs to be out in the world. We're the first generation to have it. It's amazing stuff. So I just want to do part 2 today of a question that I've been asked to help you be able to look in your day-to-day life and see if this is happening for you. Now, the question I've been asked is too much physical display of chaos and I feel disorganised. I've heard you say in your video lessons, most can say, I can manage and just start picking up. I have found I can do that now, but there is still that initial feel, and I can see the thought, which I couldn't before because it was so instinctual to go directly to this, is too much for my brain. I used to freeze for decades. I wanted to understand what is happening inside my brain. And I could really relate when I got this question because I had this happen to me a few years ago. And it came to a crunch when my kids had borrowed stuff and not put it back where I was expecting it to be. And then I began to understand that I needed this order in my environment around me in order. Now, I couldn't use this language at the time because I didn't have it. It wasn't available. But when everything around me is in an order and what I'm looking to is all in the same place, then I don't actually have to process anything in my own environment. So if things are out of place, then it's like in my mind, in my mind, there's no order. It looks chaotic around me. And I can only imagine how it is if you're a parent and there's toys everywhere. I remember it, excuse me, I've got to sneeze. Oh, sorry, my apologies. I remember when my kids were little, if there was toys everywhere, I had to have them picked up. If there was clothes everywhere, I had to have them picked up. And I didn't understand it at the time, and I didn't understand how much pressure that created within myself because things were out of order. What I'm looking at is out of order. And we need it. We need the order around us in order, and it's an order, in order that what is happening around us does make sense to our mind. So in order for you to, really grab hold of this, think about when you go out and you've planned in your mind that this is what you're going to do, this is how it's going to happen, this is how it needs to unfold, and then all of a sudden how that's going to unfold gets thrown into chaos. So imagine that you were going to get on a train and you had to go to place A in order to get to place B, and then in the middle of it all the train line was down and you had to catch a bus with a bunch of other people and it was something totally unexpected. Well, then you're going to say to yourself, well, I can understand why my brain goes into panic mode because it's all unexpected. That very same concept we can bring into our home because if things end up out of order around us, it's chaotic, it's unknown. And as complex as one sounds and as simple as one sounds, it's the same in our brain and how it's processing things. It's out of order, it's out of sequence to what we were expecting and what we're used to. Now, with our brain, as it develops in childhood, in the primal part, primitive part, when you have trauma, our response to our environment, it develops as a fear response. Somebody who doesn't experience trauma as they're growing up, their first response to the chaos around them is, this is manageable. And this is what the lady's talking about that I've spoken on before, is when we're having this initial fear response that comes from a response in our brain, not us personally, because we end up at war within ourselves going, why do I feel like this? This is nuts. I'm in my own home. It doesn't make any sense for me to be having this emotional response. I'm an adult. I can sort this out. And that's because the automatic response to the chaos around us is fear. It's driven by our brain's response. So our eyes, as I said yesterday, I call them the fibre optics, are hooked back into another part that's in the primitive part of our brain, and by all the amazing wiring. So when our eyes, sorry, my Ecamm Live's playing up today. So when our eyes look around us and things are out of sequence, it produces this fear response in the primitive part of our brain. So for us, like the lady said, we need to be the ones that turn around. This is why I teach you and say, okay, I've had the fear response. Now I can go, right, I've got to teach myself this is manageable. So whatever's out of order, whatever's in chaos around me, I can say to myself, not only am I safe, I can manage this. So then what do we do after we started, say, picking up, but we're still having that initial feel? We've got to go, it's okay, I understand why my brain's having that initial response, and breathe, okay? We've got to learn to breathe through that initial response. One of the challenges with complex PTSD is that there's always the external side happening and then there's the internal side happening. And in order to marry the two, we begin to develop the capacity to feel that initial fear. Okay, it's not our adult response. I acknowledge that, but I'm going to feel it and I'm going to keep doing what I need to do in a positive way. And what happens internally for us is our brain and our body get used to us saying this is manageable, and then they stop having this initial response of fear. And the prime example of this was me yesterday. I'm sitting here and I'm working away and I'm so super excited about all these pieces that are coming together. Oh, this is such a really good example of this. So I've got X, Y, and Z things happening and bringing these things together for us and for clients in the future and for community about what I want to do. And I, the adult, feels really good about this, so I'm really focused and I'm like going, yes, and, organising this, doing that, bringing pieces together. But here in my chest, I could feel all this, it's not even tightness, it's just this pain in my body. And I'm like, I know that it's there, I can feel how much it hurts, but I also know, having worked recovery long enough, that I need to keep persisting with going through the motions of something that I enjoy, okay? Because our brain isn't used to us stepping out and going, yes, I can do this. Yes, this is possible. Having a belief in my capacity to do something. And even though it's putting bigger pieces together, it still applies to the smaller things, or what we say are smaller things in our day-to-day life, of getting the dishes done, of getting everything that's around me from chaos to feeling good about putting it in order, because we're overcoming that initial fear response, okay? So don't be afraid to feel the fear, and know that as you continually retrain your brain, now remember, look at your brain as a muscle. that as you, like an athlete, as you train that muscle, the muscle memory gets used to the fact that this is what I'm doing and this is how I need to change in order to achieve the next goal. My goal could simply be that I'm going to have to clean up the lounge room because I've had people over and there's things out of order. The brain still needs us to be willing to have the courage to go, okay, this is overwhelming. This has produced the fear response, but what I'm going to do is breathe and walk through this slowly and understand that my body's having a response that was conditioned years ago, but I can do this. And the thing is, the retraining doesn't happen by doing it once. The retraining happens because we build that internal awareness and we have a go again and again and again. So today I will sit here and I'll be super excited about pulling all these pieces together, but my body is still going to have that response, and it actually physically hurts, but you go, right, I know this is a response from the past because I wasn't taught that it's good to feel this way, and that's about like 1/10 of the whole explanation, but we'll go with just a little bit for starters. But I can do this. I can breathe through it and I can feel good. And it does come down to, as well, adding in our disorganised attachment. That's a whole other chat show involved as well, but we've got to be prepared to feel from our heart down that it feels disorganised because it's all unknown. We're like the adventurer, the explorer that has to go to the North Pole and they're the first one that goes there. There's no roadmap that said, oh, listen, when you get to stage X, turn left, but then you're going to have to go about another 500 metres and turn right. There is no roadmap for us as we go through our recovery. We are literally experiencing it ourselves for the first time. We're the first generation to be doing this so consciously, but we are also the first person. This is the first time in our life that we're breaking frontiers, and it can be exciting stuff. Okay, the pressure internally is, it's not painful in the sense of like you've got a headache and you take 2 tablets and address pain. It's this really full-on pressure that our body is trying to hold us, saying, no, you've got to be safe, don't do this, you've got to be safe. But we're going, no, I am safe, I don't have to be afraid, I can pull all these pieces together. Now the disorganised attachment can rise up from within. It's like this, like comes up into our mind, and it just is like paralysis. But we've got to use our breath to keep going, no, I can do this. Not only can I do this, I can enjoy doing this. Now that sounds crazy, but I know for a fact that when we start to experience joy, our brain has not been wired for it from our childhood. So then it gets triggered. You see how complex this is? But we can do it. And we can do these things with really healthy strategies that we build into our day-to-day life. All right? One of the things that I talked about last week, which I found, and I hadn't ever heard this before, was the acronym for FACES. So secure attachment is when I can feel flexible, when I can feel adaptive, when things can feel coherent, I am feeling energized and I feel stable. Now what rocks us with complex PTSD is it flips all our internal side and things don't feel stable. You think about our prefrontal cortex, and when we do trauma-informed movement, you'll notice this, is that our balance actually isn't readily available. I've been training myself in doing the video, and our balance is, from our cognitive function, is out of whack. Just think about how many times you bang into furniture. Oh, My legs used to be perpetually full of bruises because we wouldn't see what's happening around us and bang into it. Oh my goodness. But here's what we do. We start to choose our feeling of, right, I'm going to feel stable and that I can do this. I know my body and brain want to work against me. That's okay, because that's how I was conditioned as a child, or needed to be, in order to get through that time. But I also had the strength to choose how I'm going to feel about this. And what you can do is choose one of the words from faces. Like, even if you choose the word flexible and go, okay, all right, my body and brain are having this response to the chaos around me. I'm going to stop and breathe, and I'm going to feel fun. And listen, I just saw an article last week about how dancing is really good for us. Put on some music and dance and do the housework. Put on some music and dance and do whatever it is you need to do. Get that feeling of energy and feeling alive, get the vibe happening, and get into it, because what you're doing, even if you can do it for 1 minute, every time you do this, you're retraining your brain and your body that you're safe in your own home to put an order together. Okay? I know that's a lot of information today, but just take one of the words, and when things feel chaotic, bring it together and go, okay, I understand this is an internal response, or as it said, this is a normal response to an abnormal situation that happened in my life, and now it's repeating today in order that I can turn it around. And I know you can turn it around because I work on doing this every day too. And we do it together. If you need any more information, head over to our recovery group, and we do life together, and we all understand that even though this is not a normal response for somebody who has a secure attachment, who never experienced trauma, for us who have experienced trauma and intergenerational trauma, this is a normal response, and it's something that we work through as we go through our recovery. Okay? If you have any questions or comments, please feel welcome to leave them down below, because I'm always happy to help you understand what's happening, so that you can retake and take hold of your life in a way that we've never been trained to or understood or been parented to as we've gone through our day-to-day life, and we can live a really good, healthy life, irrespective of how our brain gets triggered at times. I hope that's a blessing for you today. And remember, we're the turtles. We win the race. The hare doesn't win the race. We do it slowly, consistently, and we win the race. All right, blessings and dreams, and I will see you again tomorrow morning. Bye for now.